Hey there, welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuk with Queen Bee Creations. Thanks for joining me today. Now, this is January still, so it's the beginning of the new year, and it is really typical. If you're doing this for yourself, or in particular, if you have a market or a booth of your own, it's really typical in the first month and a half, maybe 2 months, people start to want to get organized. They have new goals, new resolutions for the year. They want to get organized, and they're looking for ways and means of helping them to be able to do that. So I went through my thrift stash and I pulled a couple of different projects to get us started on different things that we can zhuzh up to get organized, to help us be able to do that. So first up is this baby. Now, super cute little wooden tote. So let's get real here for a second. I love it in the woods. I like this dark wood color. You know what? In an ideal world, I would just have to kind of wax this up and be done with it. But that doesn't sell in my shop. People aren't buying wood things. If I did it like this, it's really, I would just be offering it to somebody to take it home and paint it up. So we're going to paint it up. So my apologies if you're looking going, that's really super cute. Just put a little name on the side and it's good to go. I'm with ya, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do to be able to pay the rent. So what I am going to do, I am not planning on doing the inside. I'm planning on washing the inside, and I'm planning on painting the outside. So I'm going to paint it in Apothecary. I'm going to paint the outside in Apothecary by DIY. So this is my clay-based paint. I love Apothecary. It's kind of this soft farmhouse green. It's going to look great distressed. So I'm not trying to make this box look ultra modern because it's not. So I want to paint it in a color that kind of works for that and complements it. So I'm going to get the outside of this painted in my Apothecary. It's going to take 2 coats, and then we'll come back and carry on with this particular project. The next little organizer we're going to work on is this guy, which is a bunch of individual little galvanized metal boxes inside an organizer box. So I love it, but it came with packing tape holding all of it together, and it is taking me forever to get all this tape off. And then it's pretty grungy looking, so it's going to need a big clean. And I'm not even sure these come out. Like, are they just taped in there? Like, this shouldn't be taped in. Okay, they come out. All right, so they're a really tight fit. That might kind of change some of my plans, because if I painted each of these individually and then I'm trying to squish them in here, that's all going to scrape off. Okay, well, let me try and get these all out and get, oh Lord, and get the Goo Gone at them to get all of that sticky residue off, and all the rest of the tape. And then I may have to regroup on this one in terms of what we can really do to zhuzh it up that will last beyond it just sitting on a shelf. So if we're actually going to use it, and if somebody actually wanted to remove these, they are a very tight fit because they've got an overlapping ridge on it. So we may be limited. And really, if you can't take them out, if they're just always going to sit in there, then there's not a lot of point to painting, spending the time painting all of them, because if you can't take them out readily, or if they're going to be scraped and everything, if they're always just going to sit in there, then I don't know. But it needs a deep scrubbing. So I'll go take care of that. And more tape. And try and get all of the rest of this tape, because if we do paint, we can't paint over top of this packing tape. So I'll try and get all of this off. And right now it's becoming more trouble than it's worth, but it looked really cute when I thrifted it. The next project, paint's all drying, is this just little round, this is kind of like paper mache. Couple of tears on the outside, so before I would paint this one, and this is a nesting one. So what I envision doing is, we've got 3 layers, is getting each layer painted up with the idea that we would stack them as additional storage so that they would look cute, but then they're all stored. We have to get them painted first though. So this one, before I paint it up, I want to repair that paper there, just so that it's going to take the paint well. So I'm just taking a little paintbrush, and I'm taking some Mod Podge. You could use some white glue as well. And I'm just kind of gluing that paper down. There we go. And then I'm going to just Mod Podge over the top of it, so to hold it down. And then while that one's drying, I'll paint up the other ones. And by the time I get to this will be ready to go. But that's a better repair than starting to rip it all off. We start to ruin the integrity of it. But more than anything, this is a little bit smoother texture, and it's just going to make the rest of the project go better. So if you've got the opportunity, go ahead and do that. If not, don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to be using French Millinery by DIY, which is, might as well start with the lid, which is this soft mauve color. It's kind of like a mauvey gray. It's just a really nice, beautiful color. It's going to give us a lovely background to be able to do some other things on. And that's what we're gonna start with. So we're gonna use that as a base for a change, rather than just white. We're gonna have a little bit more fun. It's still kind of a softer pastel, but it's one of my faves. So I'm going to get all these pieces painted out in this. And right now it's looking like one good coat is going to give me the coverage I need for us to be able to then carry on. This DIY paint is not sealed, so it will dry lighter and then go back to this kind of color once it is sealed. So when you see it again, it's going to look a lot paler, and it's going to look a little chalky. And just don't worry about it. It'll be okay. As I'm painting my little metal boxes, I thought that I would share an update. First of all, put them through the dishwasher last night. Perfect. They were just kind of a pain in the neck to clean. I have just a little tiny sink here in the shop. Now, this bottom tray, as you saw yesterday, was so tight that any kind of paint or finish was going to scrape off. You couldn't get them in and out. And I like the idea that you could take out what's in one of them. So let's say you had all kinds of different kinds of paint pens and markers. Well, maybe for a particular project, you just need 2 of the boxes. So then you take those over to your craft table, and then you're able to bring them back. But you couldn't do this. You'd have to be hauling this whole big tray with you wherever you go. So let me stuff that back there for a different project. What I did find, and it's got a first coat on it. But I found this galvanized metal tray with little handles, and it is more than big enough to fit these. So they have lots of room to move around. It'll fit all 9 of them with a little bit of room to spare. And so I'm using that instead. Way better. I like that idea much better for the project. So what I elected to do was I started checking paint colors and old paint that I have on the shelf. I got to start organizing things here, so I'm trying to use up stuff. And, you know, I invite you to do that too. So what I do have is an all-in-one paint from Heirloom Traditions in the States. So it is 7 years old, still working fine. It's called Amalfi. So that's this color. And I'm pairing it with the Fusion Coral. I'm going kind of tropical on this one because why not? So what I am doing, obviously painting the outside of that tray, the side and bottom blue, leaving the inside galvanized. I'm painting the outside of 4 of these little tins in the blue, and I'm painting 5 of them in the coral. So because we already had the blue exterior, we've got 9. You're not going to have even numbers of this, so I'm doing the majority of them in this. They can go in the corners and center, and then the blue. I like the contrast. I think it's very pretty, very fresh, and that's what we're getting done. I'm just, again, painting the outside of these in the color, leaving the inside just the regular, because you're going to be jamming pens and stuff in there. Whatever paint is ultimately going to chip, and then it doesn't look so good. So let it just be the regular tin, because you're not going to be damaging that in any way. So that's what's happening with that one. With our little boxes, we've got our coat of our French millinery, the DIY. What I am going to do before I do anything else, I'm going to seal this with a top coat. So I'm going to be using Big Top by DIY just to be able to seal that, and yeah, then it's sealed. that's that. The one thing that I do have to do before I seal it, now that they're all dry, is I want to paint the bottoms of them so that when you lift them and move them around, they look finished. So I have to paint the bottoms, let it dry, seal those up before we move on that one. Our big tote is getting its second coat today as well, of the Apothecary, and we're letting that dry. So now you're up to date. I have 4 large canning jars. Now these all are Bernardin. I think that's how you say it, Bernardin. That's how I'm saying it. So big mason jars, but they got this crest on them. So what I want to do is take advantage of that. These are going to go with our big Apothecary painted tote. So Apothecary is kind of a light green. Farm Fresh is actually the same kind of tone family as that, just a little bit darker. So we're going to use this. Now mine is pretty thick and pasty. So I'm going to, this is the beauty of DIY clay-based paint, because there's nothing wrong with this. And you can see that I've got lots of paint crusted on the inside. So I'm going to, I mean, you could, if you were painting a dresser or something, you could just get a trowel and trowel this on and smear it, which is fabulous. I'm going to paint this, and I'm only going to be painting where my letters are, right? So I'm just going to paint this over top, so nice and thick is just fine for this. And I'm going to let it dry. I'm probably going to do 2 coats, and then I am going to seal it. Clay-based paint, much like chalk paint, does not have a built-in sealer. So I'm going to seal it so that when I paint these fully, and I'm going to paint them white, that I can distress back to this color. Now, I could have used an all-in-one paint here, which would have saved me a step, but I didn't have one open that was in. This is the perfect color. So I'm gonna get 2 coats on there. Then what I will do is, see these big chunks of paint? The clay paint reconstitutes with water. So what I will do is, once I've got my 2 coats out of this, I will take a screwdriver and I will chip all of this paint back into my jar, and I will add a little bit of water to it and let that start to soak in to those chunks and reconstitute those chunks. And then I'll take a stir stick and stir them all smooth. So the beauty of the DIY paint is I never lose any paint. If this all dries up, I can add water and I can reconstitute it. Or sometimes I take these dried bits and I grind them up in a little magic bullet kind of food processor thing, so that they're all ground to a powder, and I put them into little jars and I just save them as pigment powders. Or I could take this hunk and I could use it like chalk in a project. So don't ever throw these containers out until they are clean, right? Until you have gotten everything you can out of it. I will often, as well, if there's just like dregs in here, I will add a bit of water, shake it around so that it's all kind of dissolved into a wash. And I'll either leave that as just a plain wash of that color, or you know what? I will just dump a bunch of similar colors together. If I had apothecary, I had this, and I had, you know, some others, and I'll just create washes in a whole different kind of color and leave it on my shelf, so that when I'm looking for a deeper toned something, or I'm looking for a particular wash over a piece, I got washes on my shelf. So again, the beauty of this paint is that, man, it just goes on forever. All right. What I had envisioned doing with these was stenciling on a number, 1 through 9, obviously. Just, you know, for a little bit of cuteness. These are already sealed because it's all in one paint. However, I didn't have a stencil that was the right size. So I thought, I have a Cricut. It's pretty old, it's collecting dust. I should break it out and use that. So I thought I would try cutting a stencil. I've made stencils before. I figured it out. It worked. However, my blades are pretty old. So it only cut halfway through the Mylar. And so I thought, that's fine. I have an X-Acto knife. I'll finish cutting it out. Yeah, that's not as easy as it sounds. And that was really slow going. I still have that. I may get around to doing it, but I need to get sharper. I need to get sharper blades for my X-Acto knife. So then I thought, okay, my Cricut is already set up to cut the stencil. I have black vinyl. Let's just go that route. So that's the route we're going. I just, you know, I could have just come out here and said, hey, we've got black vinyl. I cut out some numbers on my Cricut. You know, if you have a Cricut or Silhouette and you're really hot with it, go to town. I would have, quite honestly, used a stencil if I had a number stencil that was the right size. So just true confessions. Having said that, though, you don't have to do numbers on them. You could do you could stencil on flowers. You could stencil all around them. You could do an IOD transfer. I just like to do different things every so often. I wasn't necessarily planning on that different thing being cutting vinyl. Oh, thank goodness it cut. I was just, if this didn't cut, I was just gonna scrap it, or I would just not do numbers. Numbers were not a happening thing. I almost never do numbers on things. So I really had this stuck in my head. So I am going to number these 1 through 9. All of my coral ones get the odd numbers because I have more of them, and my little blue ones will get the blue numbers. What I'm thinking that I might have to do is, I was thinking glaze these, top coat them, just to give a little bit of extra protection to the numbers. But, oh, this was the long way round, guys. And, you know, I don't know why. Stencils are my friend. Just want to have the numbers roughly the same height. But I am just sorely lacking in a variety of number sizes. I have tons of letters, just not numbers. All right, I'm going to carry on with this part. It's working. It cut through. It's okay. I'm recovering from the trauma of my numbers fiasco. Our soft, look at, I love this color. So our soft mauve hat boxes need a little zhuzhing up. Obviously with things like this, you could, you know, do like some gross grain ribbon around the edges. You could paint on patterns if you want. I have an open pack of the Painterly florals, and I usually have an open pack because I use all of the lavender all the time. So I'm not using the lavender this time. What I am going to use are not the sunflowers, because I don't think the big yellow is gonna go well on here, and I do have lots more of the lavender. But what I'm thinking instead is it does have these wonderful roses, and they look, you know, they've got all of the paint strokes in them. It's like you'd use the oils, and they're all textured, and I have a number of pages of those along with some stems and some greenery. And I think that that color on top of here would look wonderful. So I'm gonna do the tops and the sides in these. So when I get it taken apart, I'm gonna do the tops and the sides in this, and I think that will be really pretty. And because there's nothing that says that, you know what, your storage can't be pretty, right? Like, why not? So these you could easily just stack up and have out as display, in addition to them being wonderful storage. So all that we need to do, these have been sealed with our Big Top sealer from DIY, in which case these are going to go onto here wonderfully, right? We're not gonna have a problem. The only difference, this one's just a tighter fit. The only difference is that once we've applied our transfers, we are going to want to seal them again, just so that, you know, we don't have any problems with them scratching off too easily or wearing off. So I'm not looking at covering the entire surface with the florals. So it's not, because I love this color. So I am looking at embellishing with the florals, not in covering up all of my paint. So I always have a hard time being able to tell which way these flowers sort of go. I just, you know, that's me. So I may do like a little cluster of 2 here, but I want a bigger leaf with that. And then we just take our little tool and we rub them on. So it's very easy and very satisfying, actually. It's just, there were some big leaves that I abandoned back here, so I'm going back for them. I'm not going to be using a lot of the big stems on this, but since I don't really need the big tall stalks, but I do want some of these leaves. So one of the nice things about the IOD transfers is that you can easily kind of layer them on top of each other. So they'll overlap, no problem. Which is just kind of nice when you're looking at doing some of your design planning. You don't necessarily have to have them completely separated. So you can see how easily they're going down, and I just like to burnish them in when I'm done so that I have as good adhesion as possible. Whoops. So in this case, I got half of it done and I schmoosed the rest of it off. So I still have this. I can just kind of layer it back in where it goes and just carry on, because again, I can overlap it, no problem. I think those are going to look really pretty with this. So I'm just going to carry on. Now, I just want to mention, I have the top done and I'm going to do the sides. What I don't want to do is do the sides with the lid off and have the transfers coming up too high, because when I'm taking the lid on and off, I am far more likely to be scratching these transfers off. So to be able to ensure that I continue to have a really nice look, I can put transfers on the side here, I can put transfers here, maybe make the pattern continuous, but I don't want them to extend up under the rim. I don't have enough room for the lid going on. You can see that they're fairly tight fit, so I don't want to jeopardize my transfers. To finish off this project, I need to do a little sanding. So I do have a light sandpaper, so this is 220, just to lightly go over the sides. I'm just taking off that slightly rough texture of the clay paint, all those little particles that are sticking up, and smoothing it down. So I will go over the whole thing very lightly this way, and then I'm going to use wet wipes to distress, just stuttering, I'm so excited, just to distress those edges a little more specifically. And because this paint, you can see here, is reactivated with water, it allows me to really be able to distress it very easily and quite specifically. If I also have, like you can see, a bit of paint here that I got on to my handle that I didn't want painted, I can just wipe it away right now. So I can just clean up any of those mistakes before I seal. And that's the other part about this, is because this paint is not sealed, I will need to have to seal it. So for this, I am once again going to use Big Top, just because we want this to be actively used. This is part of our organizational system. So I'm going to seal that up so it can take a lot of bangs, even though I usually prefer wax. In addition to that, so I'm going to work on that. But I also have my jars. And this can be used as is, but I'm also finishing these big jars to sit in this tote, which is why I did the white and I have our underlying blue. So what I will do is, again, just kind of lightly smooth this out, but then I'm going to more aggressively use my wet sanding on that Bernardin label. And we had that darker Farm Fresh underneath that we sealed. And so we're going to start to wash away, rub away that white clay paint and start to reveal our little blue lettering underneath, so that we're going to be able to have that sitting out, have a little bit of contrast to it, and it just kind of takes it away from being just stark white in there. Now you can also, again, just cleaning up the inside where I got a little bit of paint on the rim. I'll seal these up with that same top coat once they're done, so that, again, a little bit of a more durable finish, but you can leave them as is. You could take some jute and wrap it around the tops and glue it in place, which I may do just so it kind of coordinates with the handle. What I will also do on the plain wood on the inside, which looks a little bit dry and tired, I'm going to take some hemp oil and I'm going to wipe that down. And it's just going to liven that wood up a little bit. And, you know, old wood gets thirsty, and that wood is just kind of dry and tired looking and just needs a little bit of perking up. So it'll look like new when we get some of that hemp oil on it. And then we'll be done this one. Let's take a look at our finished projects. So first we had this little tin set. And again, you can see that there's space in this little tin, but so much better than that tight one. And we've got our cute little numbered cubes. That's the best way. I'm going boxes, but you know, cubes. So our little numbered cubes. And it's just nice and sweet and cute and perfect for, you know, again, just because of what I do, I'm thinking from an artist perspective, I'm thinking all your different kinds of pens and pencils and crayons all stacked in here, and just grab the one or two little boxes that you need for that particular project would be a super cool idea. I mean, obviously you could just put potted plants in each of them if you wanted to. Use them for whatever you want, but that kind of an idea in terms of an organizer is an excellent way of amalgamating a lot of things that might be in different drawers and different cupboards, all into one usable spot. I would say paintbrushes is an option, but my tall paintbrushes would be too tall for it. So certainly my shorter little paintbrushes would be fine, but you know, we all have stuff that we could set up in this. If you're looking at a desk space, then you've got you know, paper clips in one, you've got maybe thumbtacks for a cork board in another, you have your elastics. I mean, there's so many things that you could do. And again, even for a craft table, depending upon what you're doing, this could be great if you're a jewelry maker and you've got different findings in each, things that you use on an ongoing and regular basis. And again, I kept the inside, the clear galvanized, unpainted tin. And I think it's just a super cute, super sweet idea. Now, we ended up doing, I'm going to say stickers, vinyl stickers for numbers. You know, just, you could stencil. It was one of those days. It just wasn't working out for me. But I did keep the stencil that I pulled it, there's a 0 here that I haven't used because I could now use this as a peel and stick stencil. So if I needed the number 4, I could just cut that out, stick this on, stencil through this, peel it off. Kind of, it's a one-use stencil, but you know what? It's made. It's ready for me now. And I could have used it that way, but then I would have lost the opportunity to use the numbers. So I chose to use the numbers on this particular project so I could use the stencils next project, and it all works out. It all works out. The second project were these boxes. And again, they become a really cute decorative item, but they provide a lot of storage. Now, sometimes you see these stacked and they're all tied up. I didn't tie them up because I want to be able to use them. I want access to whatever's in there, but it becomes a nice, pretty decorative way of being able to store some things. You could have this on the top of a bookcase. You could have it on, you know, a side table, and you can still stack something else on top of this. Certainly just maybe a figurine if you want for decor or decoration, but they're really quite lovely. And you know what? I love that soft mauvey plum color as a change from just doing things in white. The last project is our big tote. Now, you don't have to do the jars in there here. Just the tote itself was awesome enough. You can see how well I've got this all hemp oiled up, and the inside as well. But these are really cute, done to just kind of highlight the label, right? So this is just cute in and of itself. The other thing that you could easily do with these jars is the back is nice and smooth. You could just paint on a black chalk painted oval, or Jamie Ray Vintage has a label stencil that you could use to be able to paint consistent label shapes on there. And if you do it in the chalkboard, then you're able to chalk on what's in there and then erase it and chalk on again as you switch it out. But again, I mean, this time I can fit in my tall paintbrushes, right? So easily I could fit the tall ones in here, and if I squish these all into the center, I still have the outside for maybe some of my sanding blocks and all kinds of other elements rather than just using the one space. So again, lots of flexibility and a cute look for you being able to organize your workshop, I love the idea of even cutlery, or, if you've got this on, let's say you have a big hutch in your kitchen, if you're blessed to have a kitchen that size rather than the little shoebox I have. But you have this up on there and you're able to put all of your different wooden spoons, and you could have a, space for a rolling pin or two. I mean, so cute. Little napkins tucked in there. Awesome ideas. Really what today is all about is giving you a different way of looking at storage. It doesn't all have to be tucked away behind a cupboard. You can do decorative storage that you're able to leave out and make your counter space usable space for you. Let me know what you think of these ideas, guys. Certainly they could multifunction. This would be cute. Just the tote would be cute out in your backyard with flower pots in it. So you're not limited just to the idea of storage or organization with it. Same with the other projects, but I wanted to give you some ideas of how to organize your space using some uncommon elements and things that you might be able to thrift. Let me know what you think. Look forward to hearing from you, and definitely look forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care.